One husband admitted he put his wife on the show as a parting gift while he was already with someone else. One alleged mistress said the whole relationship was, quote, just for the fans and a paycheck. One divorce was filed in federal court as a legal sham. And one husband said on camera he hated being married. Welcome to the Real Housewives marriages that were never what they appeared to be. The first season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills premiered in October 2010. It introduced viewers to 5 women living lives of extraordinary privilege in the 90210 zip code, and to Camille Grammer, wife of celebrated television actor Kelsey Grammer. Camille arrived on screen with enormous homes, a full staff, and the kind of calm assurance that comes with being married to one of the most commercially successful actors in television history. What the cameras did not show, because it had not been made public yet, was that Kelsey Grammer had been in a relationship with another woman since at least December 2009. Her name was Kate Walsh, a British flight attendant he had met on a flight to London. By the time cameras started rolling on Season 1 of RHOBH, Kelsey had been secretly seeing Kate Walsh for months. He attended the show's own premiere, standing next to Camille in front of photographers, and smiling for the assembled press, while he was already in a relationship with another woman. He told Camille he wanted a divorce via text message in June 2010. They separated. The divorce became final in February 2011. Kelsey married Kate Walsh 15 days later. But here's the part that reframes everything. In a CNN interview with Piers Morgan that aired in 2011, Kelsey Grammer explained the origin of Camille's spot on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with a casual specificity that should have landed harder than it did. I have to tell you, The Real Housewives was my parting gift to her. Now, whether or not it worked out well for her doesn't matter. It was my way of saying, look, you always wanted to be famous. Here you go. Everybody knows that reality shows are not particularly a great way to be famous. But you know what? You still get attention, you still get all those things that come along for the ride, which I think is what she was most interested in. And, that was the gift. And I knew that when it came up, we'd be saying goodbye. I remember having one conversation where I said, well, don't worry about it. After the first season, you can do the Divorce Wives of Beverly Hills next season. He confirmed that their marriage, in his mind, was already over before filming began. He also said, for good measure, that he believed Camille had married him because he was Frasier. Camille's response to the parting gift framing was pointed. She told the New York Post that the show was not a gift, but a distraction. That Kelsey had encouraged her to do it specifically to keep her preoccupied in California, while he was off having his affair in New York. Both explanations carry their own reading of events. But what neither of them disputes is this. Season 1 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills was filming the marriage of Kelsey and Camille Grammer, at a time when Kelsey Grammer had already decided the marriage was over. And in the audience was watching a marriage that one of the 2 people in it had mentally exited. The show's central romantic relationship in its inaugural season was, from at least one person's perspective, already finished before the cameras turned on. Camille described filming Season 1 as living through the worst year of my whole life. She said, my husband left me. He was having an affair with another woman in New York City while I was filming a reality show. It doesn't get worse than that. She is probably right about that. Real Housewives of Potomac built a multi-season storyline around one of the most unusual relationship arcs the franchise has ever featured. Robin Dixon and Juan Dixon had been married, divorced, lived together, post-divorce, rekindled things on camera, gotten engaged on camera, delayed the wedding on camera across multiple seasons, and then finally, at the end of Season 7, got married in a small private ceremony that aired during the reunion. Audiences had watched this relationship for 6 years before the wedding happened. 6 seasons of will they, won't they, of cheating rumors, of engagement rings and delayed proposals, and cast members questioning whether any of it was real. Karen Huger repeatedly suggested the wedding would never happen, that the whole dynamic was constructed for television, that the Dixons were simply using their relationship as a storyline. She was mocked for it repeatedly. Then, after the season 7 wedding aired, came the revelations. Robin admitted on her podcast that she had known about Juan's alleged contact with another woman before season 7 filming had even begun. The woman had sent Robin a hotel receipt with Juan's name on it, proof that he had paid for her hotel room during a trip to Maryland. Juan's explanation, relayed by Robin, was that the woman had lost her wallet at a casino, and Juan had paid the room out of pure Good Samaritan generosity. She had simply needed help. He had helped. Nothing else happened. On Watch What Happens Live, Andy Cohen said Juan's story sounded like nonsense. Robin maintained she believed her husband. Then the alleged woman herself spoke to a YouTube interviewer and told a story that contradicted nearly every element of Robin's version. She said she had traveled to Maryland specifically to see Juan, not because she was visiting a Ravens player, as Robin had claimed. She said they had communicated for over a year, including FaceTime calls. She said they had spent time together during her visit. But the detail from her interview that landed hardest was this. When asked whether she knew Juan was in a relationship during their alleged contact, the woman said, "It was very clear that the relationship was for TV, like it was for the fans. It was a paycheck, and that was just their obligation. They needed to do what they needed to do pretty much for TV. He made it clear that he does have that respect for Robin, but it was not a real relationship, a real, loving relationship. It was just more of co-parenting and kind of best buddies." Now, the woman at the center of this story has her own credibility issues. Robin produced what she said was a PayPal request from the woman's name as evidence she had tried to extract money for her silence. Robin knew about Juan's contact with this woman before season 7 filming began. She chose not to disclose it to the show. She filmed the entire season, including the wedding, while aware that this information existed. She then addressed it first on her own Patreon, a paid subscription platform, rather than on the show she was paid to be transparent on. Whether Juan and Robin's relationship was just for the cameras in the way the woman alleged, that is their word against hers. But the behavior around how the situation was handled on a show built on the premise of transparency speaks for itself. Kenya Moore's marriage to Mark Daly was always suspicious. She had arrived at Real Housewives of Atlanta as the woman who desperately wanted a husband and children. It was the most consistent storyline of her early seasons. The biological clock content, the fertility struggles, the cast members taunting her for being unmarried while they all had rings. The desperation of it, however real, was a documented part of her RHOA persona. Then, in 2017, she secretly married Mark Daly in a private ceremony in St. Lucia and did not tell her castmates. No one was invited. There were no photos. The relationship had been kept almost entirely off camera and hidden from the public. She announced the marriage after the fact. Her co-stars were genuinely surprised, and some were genuinely hurt. Mark Daly was allergic to cameras in the way few RHOA husbands had ever been before him. He did not want to be on the show. He appeared occasionally, reluctantly, and visibly uncomfortably every time he did. His demeanor around Kenya on camera was consistently tense, often condescending, and occasionally openly hostile. Not the manufactured tension of a reality show couple performing conflict, but the specific flatness of someone who did not want to be where he was. The moment that crystallized everything came during a charity event Mark had organized in September 2019. The event was filmed. Mark was mic'd. He was annoyed at Kenya's presence, at her security guard, at the general chaos of filming. He pulled a friend aside during his own event and asked to be saved from the drama. And then, still wearing a live microphone, he said the words that confirmed what many had been watching for 2 seasons, that he hated being married. Shortly after, they announced their separation. They then, inexplicably, appeared to reconcile. Kenya showed up on Watch What Happens Live and told Andy Cohen they were in a good place and had shared a beautiful brunch. The audience response was immediate and deeply skeptical. Fans on social media said they believed the couple had never actually broken up, that the separation announcement had been manufactured to create a storyline. and that the reconciliation was simply acknowledging that the drama had served its purpose. RHOA producers, in a candid moment during an enhanced episode recap, confirmed that the marriage had been in serious trouble well before the cameras arrived for season 12. It was obvious that the marriage was in shambles before season 12 filming even began, they said. Things had only got progressively worse as we continued filming. Datsy. They said it was definitely uncomfortable every time they filmed with the couple. They also noted they never actually saw Mark and Kenya argue on camera, which raises its own questions. If the couple was in significant trouble before filming began, and the couple never actually argued on camera, what was the audience watching? Not the reality of the relationship, because the reality was being hidden. A version of the relationship, a presentation of a relationship in crisis that served the narrative needs of a show that had given Kenya a peach again after firing her. The separation turned out to be real. The divorce dragged on for 3 years and was finalized in June 2024. Mark filed for alimony at one point, which Kenya said was a mistake. They disagreed about Brooklyn being on camera. There were allegations of infidelity. It was, by the end, a genuinely messy and painful situation. But the beginning, the secret wedding with no witnesses, the husband who was visibly miserable every time cameras found him, the separation that fans immediately questioned, the reconciliation that lasted until it didn't. All of it raises a question about what exactly was real in the version that was being broadcast. No marriage in Real Housewives history has been called fake with more serious legal weight than the marriage of Erika Jayne and Tom Girardi. Erika joined RHOBH in Season 6 in 2015. She arrived as the glamorous wife of Tom Girardi, a legendary personal injury attorney who had won billions of dollars for his clients, including on the Hinkley water contamination case that inspired the film Erin Brockovich. Tom was 33 years Erika's senior. He was powerful and protective and appeared from the outside, utterly devoted to financing the extraordinary lifestyle that Erika's RHOBH presence required. In November 2020, Erika filed for divorce. She cited irreconcilable differences. She said the decision was not taken lightly, and that she had great love and respect for Tom. Within weeks, a federal lawsuit landed from law firm Edelson PC on behalf of the families of victims of the 2018 Lion Air Flight 610 crash that killed 189 people. The lawsuit alleged that Tom Girardi had embezzled the settlement money meant for those families to fund what it called the lavish Beverly Hills lifestyles of himself and Erika. And then the lawsuit said something about the divorce that the franchise had never encountered before. While Erika publicly filed for divorce this month, on information and belief that divorce is simply a sham attempt to fraudulently protect Tom's and Erika's money from those that seek to collect on debts owed by Tom and his law firm. A federal lawsuit filed in an Illinois court was using the word sham to describe a Real Housewives marriage in a legal document. The theory was straightforward. Tom and Erika had no prenuptial agreement, which meant, in California's community property state, anything Tom owned was also Erika's. By filing for divorce, Erika could theoretically separate herself legally from Tom's debts and protect whatever assets she had from being used to pay back his creditors. The divorce became, in this reading, need not an emotional decision, but a financial strategy. Erika denied it forcefully. On camera, she said, "The things that are being said are just wrong. People are believing them, and they are everywhere, and it's terrible. And I'm here by myself. It's insane that my divorce is a sham," she said through tears. "I didn't do this. I didn't do this." She was never charged with a crime. Her lawyers argued consistently that she had no knowledge of Tom's financial wrongdoing. The civil lawsuit against her for over $25 million, representing the money the bankruptcy trustee argued had been paid from stolen client funds for her personal and business expenses, went to trial in early 2026, with no verdict announced at the time of this writing. But what the Girardi situation revealed about the marriage that audiences had been watching for 6 seasons was this. The lifestyle Erika had been broadcasting on RHOBH, the glam squad, the private performances, the $40,000 monthly spending account. A had been funded, at least in part, by money that prosecutors said had been stolen from vulnerable clients, including widows and burn victims who had been waiting years for settlements they never received. Whether Erica knew the source of the money is a question the courts are still answering. What is not a question is that the marriage audiences watched, and the lifestyle that marriage appeared to represent was sustained by a financial foundation that was entirely different from what it appeared. These four situations are different in their specifics, but connected by a single thread. In each case, the marriage being broadcast on television was not fully or honestly what it was being presented as. The cameras were capturing a version of a relationship, and the audience, who had agreed to watch real people's real lives, was getting something else. Kelsey Grammer attended the RHOBH premiere with his wife. While already in a relationship with another woman, the husband admitted the show was a parting gift, given in anticipation of a divorce he had already decided upon. Juan Dixon's alleged other woman said the marriage was for television and a paycheck. Robin Dixon filmed an entire season knowing about alleged contact between her husband and another woman, and chose to address it first behind a Patreon paywall. Mark Daly said on camera that he hated being married. His producers confirmed the marriage was already in shambles before cameras arrived, and Erica Jane's divorce was described in a federal lawsuit as a sham. And the lifestyle her marriage had publicly represented was built on money that prosecutors said came from stolen client funds. The Real Housewives franchise asks its audience to invest in these women's lives, to root for their marriages, to worry when the relationships are in trouble, to feel something genuine when the cameras catch real pain. That investment requires honesty. And in these cases, the honesty was simply not there.